Welcome class. We're going to now talk about fabric spreading and a couple of other activities which need to be undertaken in the cutting department in order to provide the materials to the production department in the right format, in the right state, so that the production department is able to do their job in a more efficient manner. So first we're going to talk about spreading of primarily the fabrics. Fabrics, it can be shell fabric or the lining fabric or laces. If there are rolls of laces, then spreading of those materials uh, and for the purpose of cutting. So spreading is the process of superimposing lengths of fabric on a spreading table or a cutting table or a specially designed surface in preparation for the cutting process. So imagine you lay down a piece of A4 sheet on the table. Now repeat the process. Put another A4 sheet exactly on top of the first A4 sheet, one on top of the other. None of the edges, coming out from any side. So that is superimposing. So spreading is the process of superimposing lengths of fabric. So let's say there is a spread of 5.1 meter. So you start from one side, you spread the fabric to 5.1 meters, you cut the fabric, you come back. Again spread the fabric, go till 5.1 meters, cut the fabric, come back. That is one of the methods of spreading the fabric. And why do we spread the fabric? We spread the fabric one on top of the other because we want to maximize our efficiency in terms of cutting. Because we have industrial level cutting machines, we can cut 70, 80, 100 layers of fabric at one go. Imagine cutting cutting the fabric for one garment. For the same amount of effort, if you are able to cut fabric for 80 or 100 garments, you're looking at 80 times the efficiency. So that's why we engage in the process of spreading. And spread or lay, just like we say cheese spread, so similarly a spread or a lay is the total amount of fabric prepared for a single mark. So a lay or the spread is those 80 layers of fabric, one on top of the other. So this entire bulk of the fabric which has been spread on the table, one on top of the other exactly, is called spread or a lay. Now we're going to look at, so there are various methods of spreading the fabric. One is by hand, the other is by machine. So the first one we are going to look at is spreading by hand. The two ladies are on the table and they spread the fabric, and on the other hand, they use the cut the fabric, and now repeating the process, placing the fabric, putting a heavy scale on top of that, and with the hands they are smoothing the fabric, and now back, cut it again. So this is spreading by hand. The other one is spreading by machine. When we say spreading by machine, mostly the evolved factories or the bigger factories with a larger amount of resources available, they install such kind of machines which are used for spreading of the fabric. Now we can see in the video that the machine is going to spread the fabric. The accuracy is much better. It's easier to handle. You need lesser number of people, and it saves time, and the quality is also much better than what can be achieved by spreading by hand. There are these sets of rollers and rods with various mechanism which help in rolling the fabric and supplying the fabric onto the table in the right manner so that there are no irregular surfaces in between. So initially when this fitting is being done, then manually the fabric has to be adjusted and all those irregular surfaces, they have to be removed. And now you can see that there's this person who's standing on the platform and this platform itself is moving, and that's the blade which is cut the fabric, and now this entire thing is going to come back. The best part is it knows exactly where to stop. Now the machine has stopped, and from here it has started spreading the fabric again. But of course, machine is a machine, so humans, they still have to lay their hands at certain places just in case there are any irregularities or irregular surfaces. So with the hands they are patting the fabric, and then you can see that head which is cutting the fabric, it goes on to left to right and then right to left, and repeat. This thing is coming back again. That's another visual. The machine knows exactly where to start, and it stops exactly at the same point again and again and again. Now, whether you feed a roller or if you have fabric, laid, like cutler, to and fro, if it has been put, as layers, both methods the machine can use and can cut the fabric and then spread the fabric. So the mechanism of these different kinds of rods and pipes have been in place to ensure that the fabric is supplied smoothly to the table. So there are a couple of defects over there, large ones. So those are the other areas, that particular length of fabric which will be removed from this thread, because there are a lot of defects in this particular length of fabric. If you can see this roll, it's about 1.5 meters wide. It would have more than about 100 to 150 meters of fabric. It looks like denim, and it would be somewhere around 150 to 200 kilos. And this roll cannot be lifted by a human being. So you can see that the entire mechanism is such that this roll is now being shifted from the stand to the spreading machine. Now this roll is being taken, and now this will be rolled, and you can see that the fabric is gradually moving forwards. Of course, there has to be a human hand which is going to ensure that the fabric goes through the middle of various rod-like mechanism, and then the spreading process has started. So we can see here that there's one person who is capable of operating the machine, and we have one additional person who's more like a helper, who is helping in this process of spreading. So two people, with the help of a spreading machine, can spread thousands and thousands of meters of fabric on the spreading table. Just two persons. So on a daily basis, they can spread anywhere around a couple of thousand meters of fabric. So that's the speed and the efficiency that we are looking at. So that's spreading by machine. Now we're going to talk about the spreading mode. Now, spreading mode is the manner in which fabric plies or fabric layers they are laid out for cutting. Now, direction of the fabric, there's a direction of the fabric you have uh, to take an example which would give you a better understanding is the example of, let's say, a velvet fabric. So on one side we have plain surface, on the other side we have a very furry kind of a surface, the velvety side. So the velvet is on the outside, so that is the right side. So if you place the fabric one on top of the other in such a way that all the piles, the plies or piles, P-I-L-E-S, piles. Piles are those raised hair-like thing which we can see in a velvet fabric. So if all these piles are in one direction, we say face one way because all the faces are in one direction. If there are two layers of fabric in which the furry surfaces they are touching each other, that is called FF, which is face to face. So there are two ways of spreading the fabric. One is all the faces in one direction, so it's face one way, facing one way, or the second method is where the fabric is put is spread. The layers are uh, superimposed against each other in such a way that the faces are facing each other. That's face to face. So these are the two methods in which the spreading of the fabric can be done. And if you see, A is face one way, B is face to face, C is where you are spreading the fabric both ways. So from left to right, you are spreading the fabric, and from right to left again, you are spreading the fabric. You are not cutting the fabric. So in the videos that you saw, the spreading was done from one side and it was ending at the other. The fabric was being cut, and then we were coming back and then spreading. In case of C, we are spreading from left to right. We are not cutting the fabric, and we are continuing with the spreading from right to left also. So this is the third way of spreading the fabric. Now, you've seen printed fabrics. So on the right side, the colors, the print is darker, brighter. And on the other side, you can see a faint impression of the print. So you can make out that if the colors are bright, it is the right side, and if the colors are light, it is the wrong side. Now, to make it clear, this is on the left side, we have face one way. All the right faces are facing you. Whereas in the case which is towards the right, the fabric has been put on to each other in such a way that the faces are facing each other. The back side of the fabrics are facing each other. So that is face to face. Now, we talked about the mode of spreading, face one way and face to face. Now we're going to talk about methods of spreading. Now, methods of spreading, we have seen the videos. One is spreading by hand, the other one is spreading using a traveling machine, which we saw a couple of slides back. And this does about 100 to 150 yards per minute. So we're looking at so in 1 hour, even if we take the lower limit of 100 yards per minute, in 60 minutes we are looking at 6,000 yards of fabric spread. So 6,000 yards, and if you multiply it by, let's not take 8 hours. Instead of that, we take, let's say, only 6 hours. We're looking at about 36,000 yards of fabric being spread using this machine, which is almost impossible if we are looking at spreading by hand. So that's the difference between hand and machine. So with that, we come to the next section, which is cutting machines. We're going to look at those simple knives also that we have at home, which we have been using since our childhood days to cut paper and plastics and fabric and other things. And those knives, the scissors, sorry, the scissors which are used by these tailors in our in our colonies or in our city, who take the order from us and then cut the fabric using those scissors. So we're going to look at those scissors, as well as we're going to look at the industrial machines. So there are portable cutting machines, portable cutting knives, and then there are fixed cutting knives. Fixed ones are those which cannot be moved from one place to another, whereas portable ones can be moved. And portable cutting knives, these are mainly two types. One is vertical reciprocating straight knives, which is called a straight knife cutting machine. And then we have round knives. Round knives are mostly the ones which are used uh, in case of such manufacturers which do very low volumes of quantities. Now, in this slide, we are looking at manual cutting, the good old way of cutting with the help of scissors. Now, normally when you have to just cut fabric for sampling, you just have to cut fabric for two pieces. You're not going to use those big machines because that's going to take a lot of time. So instead of that, you just pick up the scissors, lay the fabric, put the pattern on it, with the help of a chalk, you mark the outline, remove the pattern and cut it. And it will take you about 5 to 7 minutes. If you want to use those big machines, it's going to take you 15-20 minutes just to set the machines. So for sampling, for special orders, you can use the scissors. And these are very expensive fabrics, like, maybe 50 or 1 lakh rupees per meter. Such kind of fabrics, you cannot dare to use industrial machines because they are so expensive. So you want to be very, very careful. So when you're very careful, you would like to use the scissors, where with your hand you are going to cut. Any malfunctioning, any problem, any hiccup because of electricity or whatever, you cannot afford to cut the fabric wrongly, because this fabric is about 50,000 rupees a meter. So in case of sampling, in case of special order, in case of very expensive fabrics, and in case of knits, manual knitting is done with the help of scissors. Now, when we look at these industrial machines that we use in the garment manufacturing factories, first one is straight knife cutting machine, and we will look at the video. This is what the machine looks like, where there's a handle, and this one is for a right-handed person. So the right-hand person is holding the handle to push the machine, and then on the left side it will be used to hold the fabric better. And we have the blade which moves up and down vertically. And then of course there are other parts that we will talk about, but first we are going to look at the video. And you can see how smoothly it's been cut through those 30-40 layers of fabric, like it's nothing but as simple as that. Smooth, without any joints. That's the straight knife cutting machine. And what does it exactly look like? You've seen how it works. Now we're going to look at the various parts and their functionalities. So on top, we have this entire power system, and it is of course power driven. We have a cutting blade over here which moves up and down, and then there is the blade guard. Blade guard is what is, which is going to stop the blade from coming in contact with the fabric directly, until unless you have started the operation. We have the handle, of course, for handling the machine, and we have a sharpening device over here. After every 2 to 3 minutes of cutting, this sharpening device goes from up to down and then backwards and sharpens the knife so that the cutting is accurate and is very, very smooth. So that's the straight knife cutting machine, and the movement is up and down. Please remember, this straight knife cutting machine is the most versatile and most commonly used in the world and in India also. It has a vertical blade. Some of them have larger blades, up to 14 inches, starting with 6 inches, and it goes up and down. And it's capable of both coarse and precise cutting to a depth of about 300 mm, which is like about 30 centimeter. 30 centimeter is like about 1 feet of layer of fabric. 1 feet is pretty high. So we're looking at about 150 to 200 layers of fabric. And the corners and curves can be cut accurately. You want to cut corners or you want to cut the fabric in a curve, can be cut accurately using this straight knife cutting machine. And the best part is that all the pieces cut from a lathe are identical, meaning to say that a straight knife, because it moves vertically up and down, it's going to cut the bottommost layer as well as the topmost layer and the middle layers. All of them is going to cut identically. That's the best part about a straight knife cutting machine. Now, if you look at round knife cutting machine, this is used. You would have seen those round knife cutting machines being used to cut tiles whenever there are flats being made, or a new house is being made and tiles are being cut for that house. So all that cutting is being done using those round knife cutting machine. Now, this round knife, it moves continuously in a circular path. It does not go back and forth, does not oscillate. It moves only in one direction, just like a fan. So this is the cutting machine, the round knife cutting machine. Pretty much the same as the straight knife cutting machine, only difference being that the shape of the blade. We had a straight blade in the straight knife, and in the round knife, you can see the disc. This is a round knife cutting machine. It has the same power system, the handle, the sharpening device. It has the cutting blade and it has the blade guard. Of course, has a base plate on which it sits, well balanced, and it has a speed of 1475 revolution per minute. So that's the speed at which it rotates, and that's how it's able to cut the fabric like a hot knife cutting butter or cheese. So the movement is, let's say, anti-clockwise and only in one direction. It's popular, light and fast. So all those entities or organizations which cut, which do very low volumes per style. So if you want to cut, let's say, 5 or 10 layers of fabric, round knife is pretty good. Very small, takes very small space. And it's not very expensive also. It's popular, light and fast. But it's suitable only for cutting in straight lines or very gradual curves in depths of about 15 mm. So up to 15 mm, it can cut accurately. Larger blade cuts up to 2 inches of soft or bulky material, or lower layers of harder material such as shirts. So look at 2 inches, not more, not much. And it should be straight or slightly curved. Small blade cuts single layer. So very small ones, they will cut single layer of fabric, or similarly, these blades are used to cut. So of course there are thicker blades for cutting of tiles or cutting of wires and things like that. But this one, right now we are talking about such kind of knives which are used to cut the fabric. So those are the two machines that we talked about, and now we're going to talk about the ticketing and bundling. Now, these are very minor activities, but that are an integral part and which helps in monitoring and controlling the production at a very micro level, and we'll see how. Now, ticket is like a small sticker. which carries details like style number, size, ply number, bundle number, date issued. Now please remember, when you are spreading the fabric, and let's say there are 100 layers. So the first layer is ply number 1. Second layer is ply number 2. And likewise, so the topmost layer is 1 and the bottommost layer is 100. If there are 100 layers, and that's called ply. So every pattern piece that you cut, let's say collars and pockets and front and back and sleeves and cuff and other things, every piece must carry this ticket. And the ticket is going to carry the style number, the size, the ply number, bundle number, and the date issued. And we will see how, and that's how we are able to control. We can actually see whether the production is being done correctly or not, and how much of it is happening. Because any random piece that you pick up, you can see the style number and the size and ply number, bundle number, the date issued. And that's how you can control, that's how you can monitor. This piece belongs to the first day. What is this piece doing on the 5th day? Maybe something has gone wrong, something had to be repaired, therefore this piece is still over here on the stitching floor. And likewise, operation may be incorporated for payment purposes, control of work, and facilitating quality control. Like I said, to control the quality. So please remember that if you want to make a shirt, then if you pick up a shirt, if the collar is from the first layer, then front, back, sleeve, cuff, everything has to be from the first layer only. It cannot happen that the collar is from the first layer and the front back is from the second layer and the cuff is from the third layer. No, this cannot happen. This is suicidal. Why will be discussed later on, but every shirt has to be made from the same layer. If it is the 42nd layer, then the entire shirt will be made from the pattern parts cut from the 42nd layer of the fabric. So that's why this numbering helps in quality control. Control of work, who's doing what? Someone says, I have made 80 collars today. How do you find out whether they did 80 collars or not? You simply ask them, give me the serial number. Now these operators who work, when they are working, they look at the serial number and they have their, those small copies. In that copy, they're going to write style number and then those numbers, the ply numbers. So let's say if you have cut let's say you've cut 1,000 pieces. So there are 1,000 layers and every pattern piece has a serial number from 1 till 1,000. Now this guy, let's say he worked for 3 days. And if he has made, let's say 250 collars, he will tell you the serial number that from 1 till 250 or maybe from 151 till 343 he has made it. So let's say he was there for 3 days and there was another person for another 5 days. Every person is going to note their serial number and the serial number is not going to clash with each other. Because if I have made the 343rd piece, then the other operator cannot claim that he has also made that same piece. So that's how you are able to control the work and for payment purposes. So if someone has done the work, they'll give you the numbers, the serial number, and accordingly you can pay. No one can fool you. So that's the beauty of ticketing. Good for controlling and good for payment purposes and quality control also. Now that was ticketing, but there is something called bundle tickets. Now these bundle tickets are larger and what you see on the screen is the exact size of the bundle ticket. And this bundle ticket looks like something like this. So this says order number 6015, bundle number 1430, quantity 12, style number 3145, size 12, section collar. Now when you see quantity 12, it means that collars are being bundled in the quantity of 12 and then it is being sent to production. So in this case, where a factory is working in bundles of 12, so serial number 1 till 12 is going to be bundle number 1. Serial number 13 to 24 is going to be bundle number 2, and likewise. So that's how your bundle number is going to change. So the third bundle is going to carry 25 to 36. So the order number is going to remain the same, 6015. Style number is going to be 3145. Size is 12. Section is collar, but the bundle number is 3. And this is not just for the collar. This will be done for the cuff also, for the pocket also, for the front, for the back, for the sleeve, for everything. So tickets will be on every piece, but bundle ticket will be on every 12 piece. So 12 pieces bundled together, you will have one bundle ticket. So you have bundles of 12. Okay, if you see this second one, order number 5412, bundle number 216, quantity is 6. It means the style number 254C. Now this style is being produced by making bundles of 6 pieces each. Now this is size, and the sizing is double XL, so this means SML XL, the sizing is different. So this could be like, size 12 can be, European buyer, but if you say size double XL, this most probably is going to be USA, because USA is, small, medium, large, etc. And sizing is 12, 10, 12, etc. mostly used by European, although Americans also use the numeric sizing, but they are known to use SML XL more than the European counterpart. And what is this part? This section is ruffle. So it might be a ruffle blouse or something like that. So this is a ruffle. So these are the two examples of bundle tickets. Now this is pre-ticketing. Pre-ticketing means the cutting has been done. On the top you see this paper. Now what we do is that the cutting tables are smooth. It has mica on top. Now it's very smooth, so fabric is going to slip. So what we do is, how do we prepare the table? So we put those brown sheets, the rough brown sheets on the table, and we attach it to the table with the help of sellotapes. So the surface becomes very rough because the brown sheets have been stuck to the table. On top of that, the fabric will be spread. Once the spreading has been done, then the marker sheet is put on top of the topmost fabric layer. And once this paper has been set on which the patterns are there, so that acts as the guideline. So the patterns are drawn on this white paper. It has been put on the top of the layer of the fabric, and with the help of the machine we are cutting it. So when you cut it, what you're going to get is these bundles of fabric which has been cut, and on top there is the white paper which has the outline of the pattern. So this is pre-ticketing, meaning to say that from here now ticketing will be done. Now this is the ticketing machine, fairly simple, just like we put, so these are those tickets, and it has a glue to it. So with this help of this ticketing machine, you can stick it, and we'll see in the video how does it work. And when you are putting these tickets on each layer of the fabric, the numbers are increasing by 1. So if you see this, the last 2 digits is 40, then we have 41, then 42. So those digits are going to increase by 1. So when you are putting these stickers, then you are putting the stickers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's how the sequence is going to move. And when you see the video, it's going to be fairly evident. Yeah, you want to look at the ticketing video. See, with what speed this person is adding these tickets. Yes, and see on the back side there is this series. This is the feeder. Now it has those stickers which has been put on to a piece of paper. So just like we have the sticker which you can peel from a paper and then you can stick it anywhere. So this ticket is just like that sticker. And this is the machine which is going to remove the paper, separate the paper, and is going to take that ticket and stick it onto the layer of the fabric. So this is the simple process of putting these tickets onto different layers of the fabric, and it's called ticketing. Now, what we see in this visual is that of people standing and they're working on the tables, and where the cutting has been done, the ticketing has been done, and the bundles are being made. Bundles can be made of 5 pieces or 6 pieces, half a dozen, or tens, or 2 dozens, or 20 pieces. And we're going to look at the video, which clearly illustrates how the bundling is done by the by the persons. And bundling is a fairly clerical job, can be done by illiterate by people who can just read the alphabets or the numbers. That is more than sufficient for the person. People should be able to count the number of layers of pattern parts and then make bundles out of it. That is the only criteria for being suitable to be part of the team, which is in the process of making bundles of the pattern parts for the facilitation of the production. Because the production people, they need the material in that particular format, so that they are able to immediately pass on those bundles to the people in the production line, and can start immediately working on the bundles. People should, in the production line, they simply open the bundles and then they start the operation. They start working. They start stitching. So you have to give it to them in a set format, and that format is in giving them the correct bundles of the pattern parts.
Bundling for it.
So people have been told that we have to count 6. You see the bundle and you see the bundle ticket. And that's the size of the phone. People are counting the number of pieces. So this lady kind of shows to the camera. You can see that she's picking up 6 pieces from one bundle and 6 pieces from the other one, and then she prepares the bundle and then attaching the bundle ticket to it. And then she gives it to it. Now this attaching is going to be picked up by one of the helpers, and according to the regulation by the production department, the bundle will be then applied to that particular stitching line, which is doing this particular site. So we've seen bundles being made, and so cutting is being done, and then the ticketing is being done. Once the ticketing and the tickets are being attached to every layer, and then the bundles are being made. So it can be bundles of 6 or 10 or 12, depending on what the production manager decides, or based on what works the best for the factory. So that's on the basis of that, that golden number is uh, determined. Sometimes, when the pieces that you're making, the style is very small. In that case, the bundles are going to carry more number of pieces. But if the style is very big, like a jacket or a trouser or something like that, in which the pattern pieces are very big, so in those cases, the bundles are going to carry lesser number of pieces because the volume becomes very large. So there are various considerations based on which the bundling is done. The number of pieces that would go in one particular bundle will be determined on various considerations. Now, small batches of garments move from one workstation to another in a controlled way. And so it can be in terms of tens or dozens or two dozens. We had discussed earlier that if you make one piece and then you give it, pass it on to the next person, then you make the next piece and then you pass it on to the next person. So this passing on to the next person takes time, and it is not productive. So instead of making one piece and passing on the next and to the next person, rather make at least 5 or 10 or a dozen pieces and then you pass it on to the next person, so that you can also work for it for a certain amount of time and then you can pass it on to the next person. Otherwise, it's something which disturbs you, that you make one piece, pass it on, then you make another piece, pass it on. Why do that? So instead of that, you do at least half a dozen or maybe a dozen and then pass it on to the next person. So your speed is also maintained, that motion is maintained. You don't have to disturb yourself by making one piece and then passing it on to the next person. And if in some cases, if ticketing is not done, a top ply labeling system is done. Meaning to say that if tickets are not attached to each layer, then at least the top layer has to be labeled, so that if it is labeled 1, then automatically you'll understand that from 1 till 20 is what is there in my hands. So at least a top ply labeling system has to be done. If you have no number, then a collar from any layer will be attached to a body of any other layer and things like that. And when you get the final shirt, it will have so many different shades. Even a lay person will look at the shirt and say that something is wrong. Because if it's a white or a pink or a blue, all those pinks are looking different. They're going to look like some third class product by some substandard brand or unbranded product. Brands do not work like this. And after the bundling, the next step is to send the material for production. Production people expect that the ticketing and the bundling has been done properly. Otherwise, one thing goes wrong, everything will go wrong. Imagine if one collar has been attached to a layer 2 of body, then all the collars will be attached to a wrong layer body. Because see, imagine if you are putting your button and one button goes wrong. Let's say you're buttoning your shirt. If one button goes wrong, all the buttons are going to go wrong. So that's why it's so important to ensure that right from the first piece till the last piece, all the serial numbers are maintained. So now, if you remember, every pattern part has a ticket. So if you pick up a shirt, all the parts that you see will have a ticket, and all the numbers on those tickets are going to be the same. That means a correct shirt has been made. Any single part carries a different number, it means disaster, because all the other shirts also would have one part which is wrong. So that's how this production quality is controlled. So that brings us to the end of this session, where we have talked about the various aspects of production, where we talked about fabric and about the methods of spreading the fabric and the quality of the fabric, and then what happens after we have cut the fabric and till the time we pass it on to the production department. Thank you.